Let's continue with this. I mean, this isn't a... He's currently a disaster in that we're getting overrun, but this won't be a victory for normal conditions here, so... Anti-select that unit. There we go. Okay, they break. Very good. Very good. Well, a little more dispersed. Yeah, the Genevieve route or rallying is just a bit much. We're dispersing. Now, one thing, you know, they have the baggage back here, which, you know, they're calling it light fortifications. Very good. And this may just meant to be eye candy. But what I would try to do, again, and I don't know how you would program it, but I would try to make it some sort of juicy goal for the AI, so that they would particularly push to here, because that's where the wealth of the enemy would have been, and that was always sort of a goal, is to capture the baggage of your enemy. And remember also, the English, I mean, they're both sort of doing scorched earth. The English force had been coming in and burning and destroying everything in its path. I don't know how murderous they were, but going in and just destroying the peasants' towns, the farm fields, and everything else, instead of trying to besiege the castles, they were just making it. They weren't peaceably moving around the French countryside. They were destructively moving around the French countryside. Well, the French, you know, early on cannot readily oppose them in the field, so they are trying to. I don't know how much. Well, destroy to some degree, but try to carry away all of the food, so that the English are being starved. And I forget where, there was a little skirmish that the English were able to get across the river that the French really didn't think they would, and got out into territory that hadn't been picked clean before them. So the English had stored up a lot of food, and was essential for the English to continue to operate. And so that does make a reasons to go after the baggage considerably. Okay, they held firm, unfortunately. We're gonna shoot at these guys again. Keep putting them down. Okay, they auto break route. Very good. What we're going to do is we're going to move these guys down the hill, just down the hill, and these guys are going to come to here, and then next, oh well, they could fire here. We're already on low ammo, so let's next turn they'll turn this way. Okay, that does not look favorable of an attack. Yeah, we lost them. Not. Oh, they're already fragmented. Oh, lovely. Okay, well. We'll do that, or turn and shoot there. Let's shoot here. I'm just mostly trying to get these guys to be useful, not just standing around. And they're charging down the hill. They fell back. Okay. Now what? Hey, and thanks for following. Do appreciate it. Hello. Group Pill, or something. I'm probably butchering that. It was called the Chevanche, I believe, and it was the modus operandi of the 100 Years' War that these large-scale raids meant plunder for the troops who had to be paid somehow, and for hundreds of years both sides just raped France over and over. The French did the same for those vast parts of France that held the people learned to hate both sides equally. Well, and later on in the 100 Years' War, you're also fighting, the Burgundians, which are, I think at this point, are allied with the current French king. They're also fighting, sometimes or often against them. And it's just a mess. It's not a clean war in any sense. Let's see. Okay, they get disrupted. Good. Flank charge will do that. Do another flank charge, even though you're archers. These guys will fire again into here. Mostly on our side. I don't know who ours for sure is. They were the ones who captured Joan of Arc and handed her over to the English to die. Yeah, I would say that they are on their own side. But obviously, in the long run, there is no country of Burgundy, so they don't win in the long run. I don't think there's much more to do right now. It's looking like it's going evening here. Okay, well, the sun is going down. They auto brake. Well, that's not looking so hot. I want to be very clear. I'm not complaining because I'm losing. Because I know I'm not the best at this game. I'm just complaining that the conditions set up just so don't match. Other than the general orders of battle and the general layout of the field as we understand it, those two are very good. And I say general orders of battle because we do not have definitive orders of battle for either side. We have, I think, better estimations for the English, partially because they were smaller and some better records kept. But for the French, just how many knights and how many of this or others, it's somewhat, guesstimations, good ones maybe, but so that part I'm not complaining about, the orders of battle. It's the conditions of the specific troops. Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to clear that town out, which is only happening because they have ranged units, and I had just the one there, not none, but one. And they're about ready to turn my flank here. And there's not much I can do about that. Yes, I'm moving off the hill again because the commander does what he can with what he has. It's very little effective at this moment. I was hoping to get these guys on the flank more. Oh well, maybe that wasn't the best move. No longer am I looking at hitting them in the flank. Fortunately, it was sort of a stupid move by me, I guess. Push when I did. These are disrupted, so that's why I'm attacking. And they fell back and they did much more damage to me, but this is going to crumble very soon, I predict. There's no Burgundy today, but it would be a mistake to think that Burgundy was not every bit of... then France was at this period a nation states were emerging idea at best. The House of Burgundy and the French Royal House of Orleans were cadet branches of the same family. Burgundy was the wealthiest and most splendid in court for much of its existence, although the French now are French now. Back then it was a separate state. Oh, absolutely. Oh no, I'm in total agreement with you. I think, I am very much a proponent of people in history. And that they shape, history is not determined entirely by economic factors or, eventual outcomes. But to a point, I think geography does play a significant role. And I would agree, but it just, I think, Burgundy could have, if it's, if things went different, we could have a Burgundy today. I will agree entirely with that. There is nothing saying France must be the way France is now, but the sort of northern hat, because part of, if I'm remembering the map right, part of what we're thinking of Burgundy includes maybe a little bit of what is today Belgium, but definitely part of today's France and today's Germany, sort of the Rhineland, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been a while since I've looked at a map specifically with Burgundy on it. And you could definitely have a country in there, no doubt. But I think, because, also looking at this, on the English view of the 100 Years' War, if you will, they're able to hold places like Normandy, places like Aquitaine for long period, generations. And not just, holding out in, a Calais pocket somewhere on the coast, but hold real sections of what is today France. I think and not, again, I'm totally in agreement that, it's people that make history, and it's not determinate. But the control of Paris, because of its location, because of its importance and trade and everything else in there, he who controls that is going to be the winner. So could Burgundy come in and control that? Quite possibly. And would that just have made, in essence, Burgundy France? I don't know. The English are able to use naval power to shift forces, are able to shift commerce around the coastline and control that. Because we're not seeing, unless there is, in essence, an English civil war going on, we're not seeing the similar ability of the French to just invade England like the English are able to invade France. And this goes on for, into the 18th century. It just really is a difficulty, and it's not that France doesn't build ships and aren't good sailors. They are, and they do. But it's geographical reasons like that. Grenadier had its heights included all of the Netherlands, Belgium, okay, as well as Artois and Picardy in northern France. It also controlled Luxembourg and parts of Switzerland. Yeah, so that could have really been a definable country in there, with, especially, today we see Germany as a country, but the Holy Roman Empire, is a political force, most assuredly, but it really isn't a centralized force. And it's if it didn't exist, you could have similar sorts of, what become, or you would be called, Kingdom of Prussia, Kingdom of Bohemia, Kingdom of whatever, creating Bavaria, creating alliances anyways. So there's much fighting within themselves, it would appear, as fighting outside, the Holy Roman Empire fighting off invaders. It really isn't that, because I don't see a lot of, defend the Holy Roman Empire, when somebody will say, like, France is coming in, it's only worrying over a particular state within the Holy Roman Empire that they're fighting over, and internally people are as greedy to get that state as externally. So the idea that Germany needs to be what it is today, I I don't think it has to be. That is, Bismarck's creation. Now it's also Napoleon's creation, quite honestly, too. Not just in that he's creating the Confederation of the Rhine, and similarly, but Napoleon is the one, in my opinion, with the sort of French nationalism of the French Revolution, is creating, these are Frenchmen over here, so what, these other people, these are Germans, is creating nationalism that way. That, if longer you had a Burgundy continuing to be there, they would be Burgundians. I don't know what language they would be speaking, French, German, or some other, something like Wallonian, or I don't know what they might be as a national language speaking. But it really does come out. Yeah, they're rallying. We're fleeing, running away. Hey, and thank you, Plastic Gangster and others. I really like talking about something other than World War II. I do it all the time on my channel, often here, and I really enjoy talking about World War II. But it's good to get out and talk about other periods in history as well. And I know I'm not the biggest expert on any of these topics, but I hope I'm interesting enough for people to enjoy listening to me blather about these topics. Yeah, I realize I shouldn't have come off this hill, but but just seeing this turning, and obviously we're down to, less than half our units here. Yeah. Not going to save us. And we're even disrupted from that, yeah. That's about the only thing I can think to do. Yeah, we've lost our archers over here. They're running away. Yeah, I know you're going to come in and get these guys. Yeah. No, it was a mistake. But I don't know what else I could or should be doing. Well, here, where do we attack here? 73 versus 82. I think we attack here. And then fall back. Okay. Enemy general has fallen. Finally, we see some forces not doing so well for them. My take is they would be speaking French. The Burgundians, much like the Franks, were German tribes that established themselves across the Rhine during the late Roman Empire, thus using Latin that morphed into French over time. Very good, Van Bishop. No, but it is that inclusion in the H area that prevented French taking all of the Netherlands and Belgium when Charles the Bold got himself killed at the siege of Nancy, or was it Strasbourg? I wouldn't know. And Mary Burgundy suddenly becoming the greatest heiress probably of all time. In result, thanks to her marrying Maximilian of Habsburg, was that they got the Low Countries and Luxembourg, as well as French committee, and the French got Burgundy proper back, as well as Alsace and Lorraine. Yeah, it's definitely dynastic elements are the major impact. You know, I'm a big proponent of good governance, and I definitely like different forms of government and whatnot, and abhor other forms of government. But today's leveling attitude that people often project back into the past. And I don't know if any of you guys have watched, in my opinion, a great series called Time Team. I forget what British channel it was on. I didn't watch it on British TV really, in which is a archaeological show, and they talk about archaeological stuff, and they're all like, "Yay for Parliament against the king and whatnot," and so they're projecting themselves back onto the conflicts of the past and cheer for the Parliament to be victorious, because I think they see it as like the common man, when if looking at the people and the way they're talking, they probably would be cheering for the royalists if you look at what the different sides were advocating and what was going on there. And obviously that's later than this period. But if we look at this period, the peasant, who I do have respect for, but they know how to farm this bit of farmland here. They know how to deal with the various crop areas and rotation, and they do that very well. This is sort of a nice little idea of what medieval fields might actually look like, not necessarily this field or in this scale, but they know how to do that very well. And literacy and knowledge was just so narrowly contained that your leadership elements are hugely important. And I think, turning, the form of government that, was necessary. So if something is necessary, it is good. Like oxygen is good because it is necessary for us to survive. Obviously you can blow too much oxygen and kill somebody or something. But you get the point. Something that is necessary is good. So rule by these elites is good. Even when, we can talk about how flawed it might have been in particular cases. But these people, like say you can't rule themselves. Well, yeah, they can rule their daily activities. But when things don't work out well, like too much rain or too little rain or whatever, and the crops start failing, well, they're going to decide, well, our crops, we don't have food. Let's go, 3 or 4 valleys away and see if we can get food. And we're willing to kill to get food because we want to survive. I don't blame somebody for wanting to survive. But the other people a few valleys away need to organize themselves in a mutual protection organization, if you will. And that's what these are, that we're seeing these armies and whatnot. And they're trying to work it out. Now, today, the idea, I think, is starting to, and I don't want to get into, left-right politics, and that's not what I'm talking about. Today, we have much greater access to information. We have also what is even more, which is element of access. We have the time to do it. Back then, especially these peasants, it's almost a case of, are they expending more calories to get their food than the calories give them? See, you got to sort of look at that. And yeah, I know they they get skimmed off the top, and which is a lot of the critiques of it by these guys in knightly armor and whatnot that are skimming the amounts of food off of them. True, but the daily grind back then was often the woman of the house literally daily grinding wheat into flour and expending calories doing it. And the guys working out in the field are expending calories, and do they get enough calories back into their system? Well, when things are going pretty well, the medieval system, I think, is getting plenty of calories into the system. But still, you have that time, energy, effort, however you want to look at that, to keep the calorie intake balance versus the calorie cost for that intake coming on. And you need to understand the world in that, compared to today, where calories, especially in the Western world, is what I'm talking about, of course, is not the problem. We can have plenty of calories, and so we have the time to understand the world in a perspective larger than our personal lives. What we daily encounter. So rule by elites like this isn't you still need specialists, because we have specialists in all fields, but it's different. And we obviously in most of the West we have representative democracy of some sort, of some levels, in some republics, but within a republic like the United States, there's still representative democracy elements within it. And so, again, I'm not trying to go political in this, right, left, which political party or leaders. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the sense that people can look at things in a different perspective, where these people here didn't have time to learn to read and write at all, and to learn how to do it, let alone to be able to do it. With Baldric from Black. Oh, no Englishman does not know the time theme. Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. Good thing, Plastic Gangster. Yeah, I figured Englishmen would know that, but I'm not sure that we're all English here. But yes, I've also watched all the Blackadder. Time theme was available on channel for free with Prime Video. Very good. I didn't know it was on Prime Video, if that's Amazon. You know how you old you are, but you ever heard of a series called Time Commanders? No, but I do remember Plastic Gangster. I am an American, though I did live for like about 6 months, in little less, in Britain, and have traveled there a lot, so I do have a familiarity with British culture, including broadcast culture. But trust me, there's big gaps in it, even for my age. The average peasants in those days had no idea of what it would require to become politically active. Absolutely. It was a balance sheet. If you got less out of it than you put into it, then you did not do it. Yeah. And so, you have to I try to understand the world in the context in which it existed at the conditions at the time, whether that means World War II or whether that means, the medieval world, or the classical world, or whatever context, and try to understand it in that perspective. And they break and get routing even by fragmented knights. Not that fragmented knights couldn't be significant, but still. Now, there were peasant uprisings. I forget, there's several in England that are major. Because whether you have incompetent leadership, and trust me, that happens, however much they want to believe in divine guidance, divine inspiration, that God will protect them, whatever the thought that you want to put to that. Well, let's just turn here. That you did get idiots in charge. Plus, you also had, in my opinion, as well, probably very good people doing their very best. That just the environment, the environment. Back in college, I was sort of, hey, really shocked to learn famine in Britain wasn't caused by lack of rain. Almost never, back in this period. It was always caused by too much rain. The crops failed because of too much rain, or particularly rain in, in harvest time, so it would ruin the harvest. And basically from whatever recorded elements there are, it's never really from the idea of never getting enough rain during the growing season. Might not get as much rain as you could want to have the best crops, but famine wasn't caused by the lack of rain, which sort of surprised me there. But that very well may be changing in a place like Spain or Italy or Greece or whatever, that's a much drier area, that you very well may have a lack of rain causing famine there. I'm just, again, from my English history courses, I know English history better than, Italian or Spanish history, particularly at this period. So you very well may have the idea of very good people doing their very best, but the system still collapses. They're very, and I mean, maybe potentially excellent people. There's just not much more for me to do other than let the turn happen. Because I think right now standing in defense is my best option, though it's not necessarily a good option. It's just the best of a bad situation. So, very good people doing what they're supposed to do, the system still breaks down. Sort of what we might call a natural disaster today. And that sparks a peasant uprising, revolt. And I don't blame someone for going, hey, yeah, things have gone to hell, and now we're at night. The army has lost heart. We are defeated. Okay, well, I think all of my criticisms hold true of this scenario. I agree with, if I'm remembering all of what you guys are putting, a few swampy tiles out here would probably be useful, especially not like necessarily immediately in front of the English positions, but maybe even a couple there, but a few others would be good just to sort of delay and break up both the Genevieve crossbowmen coming up as well as the knights following behind them. I think instead of somewhat disheartened, I would just go to like fully disheartened or whatever, so they retreat much faster. I don't know that you would simulate the French hacking them down, but just them sort of quickly fleeing into the rear, get routed and fleeing into them would break up. Additionally, break up the French approach. I think giving the English longbowmen double ammunition, if that could be done within the game engine, I'm not sure. Instead of just 5 shots on full ammunition, make it 10. Or if you could, I don't know, some way after a number of turns, give them more um, give them a resupply partway through the match, as as if more ammunition coming up from the baggage train. I would also, I don't want to. I don't know if you can program the AI to fancy targeting the baggage train or whatever. I don't know what in the AI's mind. Not that it's a bad strategy, and it may be implementing a good strategy, but to focus just on one part of the battlefield really keeps about half my archers from being effective entirely. So I think they're still okay. They're on low quantities. Yeah, well now they are, but we had some that were still had some shots until very late in the thing. And we're gonna be playing more than this. I'm gonna at least start another battle here in a moment. So I don't. The knights also seem to come up and just stand in front of these guys for a long time instead of charging into them, which is uncharacteristic, shall we say, of it historically. So I don't know about programming them in to more recklessly charge, and even in what is unfavorable element, just like we can see here, and there was one, not that it's really affected things, but there's been one French knight unit that went off the board following fleeing troops here that I'm surprised didn't show back up. Just how a horse unit will continue to follow units that are clearly not worth following anymore, just because that's what men and horses continue to do during, well into the gunpowder era, or to the end of the gunpowder era, into the smokeless cartridge era, the machine gun era, is to just continue to pursue fleeing enemies when there was better things for them to do, to have some sort of effect like that they would, come straight in and hard and fast. That would give us a lot better effects with them. So I think if they were to do that for this scenario, it would be more of the conditions that I've read of Crecy. Let's see. I want to read what Plastic Gangsters, in a series made back in 2003. So it was back then. They took four-man team from, say, policemen, fishermen, whatever, generals, lieutenants, and having fought famous battles using original Total War engine. They divided their forces between lieutenants who sat in front of the PC and controlled the troops, while the general stood at a map table behind and only had access to the big screen. They also had expert historians telling you about the troops. Well, that sounds very interesting, because that gives you sort of your the command and control loop that allows me to micromanage these forces, where King Edward III here would not have been micromanaging any of these forces, other than periodically saying, hold the town, or whatever, and that would be about it. If during the battle, or send the relief force to hold the town, or whatever, and sending some orders out potentially during the battle, but just in the most general sense. The way all this we're going to talk reminded me, I need to venture down into the wine cellar. Okay, yes. On YouTube, I think you're talking about Time Team. Yes, I have seen some Time Team on YouTube, which will traditionally drink claret, or Outport from Portugal. I spent a few years in London. Yes, Bordeaux was somehow popular as well, but varies widely in quality. Well, I'm sure, to any snob. Okay. Well, that is going to be it for this